Ahmed Najar is a Palestinian political economist, writer and playwright, and joins me now. Thanks for joining me, Ahmed. Depressingly, this is, yet another story about journalists losing their lives. And again, I stress that it's not that their lives matter more than any other life that's been lost in Gaza, but there are particular concerns, aren't there, around the fact that stories may not be told if we don't have eyes and ears on the ground to tell them in Gaza.
Absolutely. I think this is another tragedy. We haven't even stopped grieving the Anas al-Sharif and his colleagues that were killed a few weeks ago, the Al Jazeera correspondents. And now we are faced with another 4 journalists being killed. Journalists have been targeted from day one in this genocide that now is mounting to about 240 journalists that have been killed, which is unprecedented. We have never witnessed any war around the world in our history that has that many journalists being killed. So, and the fact that also Israel is not allowing international journalists is to try and commit its genocide in the dark. So definitely right now, the journalists are particularly targeted. And I have just noticed some of the journalists in Gaza started to deactivate their social media accounts and try to keep low profile, which is completely, wrong, because these guys need to be in the event to report on what's going on. And that's exactly what Israel really is after, is to kill all the eyes that are trying to reveal the Israeli war crimes and genocide.
I mean, the IDF has said in response to all of this, the IDF regrets any harm to uninvolved individuals and does not target journalists. So the line from the IDF is still this insistence that they don't target journalists. But Ahmed, quite clearly, you're not satisfied by that.
The IDF is a genocidal army. Let's admit to this. Let's face it. All international organizations around the world or experts in genocides have concluded that the IDF is committing a genocide in Gaza. How could we believe a genocidal army that telling us that they're not targeting journalists after killing 240 journalists? And then do you actually expect us to believe what a word that's coming out from their mouth? We see their government is wanted by the ICC. How could we trust people like that? I think it's absurd to actually believe one single word that's coming out from their mouth. They lie right, left, and center. They have killed more than 60,000 people in the space of 2 years. Can you just imagine that they destroyed the entire Gaza Strip? They also have actually killed these journalists in a hospital. So it's not just the crime of killing journalists. They have killed them in a hospital. So they were attacking a hospital, which they have attacked more than 35 hospitals in Gaza. So obviously they're going to be repeating their narrative, which is, we're investigating, we never target journalists, we have done this and that. And we have the story about the civil defense when they killed them and buried their vehicles, and they denied their involvement in that. And later on, they found a mobile phone in the pocket of one of these people who were killed, filming everything that happened. So, and then let's talk, if we want to bring like Shireen Abu Akleh, the journalist who was sniped by one of the snipers in the West Bank. And they denied, and then they proved that they were involved and they targeted her deliberately. And the list is endless. I can speak about their war crimes until tomorrow, or maybe there won't be enough time to speak about the war crimes that Israel is committing.
Yeah, and look, you're not a lone voice in that. There are many people who are very concerned about what's happening in Gaza. It's my job as a journalist just to introduce the other argument. I know you understand that, Ahmed. And Israel, of course, denies that there's a genocide. And I suppose the difference they're trying to point out is that they say they're not deliberately targeting journalists. It's that journalists are dying in what is a dangerous zone. But you clearly feel that's not true, that journalists are actually being singled out and targeted.
Of course, they killed Anas al-Sharif and they accused him of being Hamas member without having any kind of proof or anything. Look, Israel has been acting with impunity for far too long, and they actually have killed those journalists. They have killed them in front of the camera, right in the front of the camera. That was Al-Ghad TV were filming already the attacks that was in the hospital, and they attacked again, and another the journalists were killed. So So they really fear nothing. If they actually think that they will held accountable for their actions, they wouldn't be doing that. And let's be honest, the West has allowed them to do that. And I'm sorry that the Western media has covered up for their war crimes for so long. And that's why they dare to commit this type of war crimes that they're committing. Look, up until this moment...
I don't think that's fair on the Western media, actually. I think the Western media...
Fair. Look at the BBC, for example. Look at the BBC, for example. You guys are still not calling what's happening in Gaza as a genocide. Why aren't you calling it as a genocide? Why aren't you naming it as a genocide? 7th of October, you all named it as a massacre. Up until this moment, none of you, absolutely none of you, called any of what happened in Gaza as a massacre. Today, we are encountering a massacre against journalists. You haven't named it as a massacre. This is the language that the Western media is using, and that is complicit. And that's complicit in this genocide. You guys have called the Rwanda genocide as a genocide 4 years before the court decision came out. In spite of the fact that there's far more overwhelming evidence that there's a genocide in Gaza, Western media still hasn't called it as a genocide. This is complicit, and this is allowing Israel to carry on with its genocide. Look, the Western governments also haven't imposed any kind of sanctions. They're still selling arms to Israel. Can you believe it? There's a declared famine, man-made famine in Gaza, and the Western governments are still supplying Israel with weapons, are still supporting Israel. They haven't sanctioned Israel. They're still trading with Israel. They're still business as usual with Israel. Can you believe that? I mean, what else they need from Israel to do to cross how many red lines for them to act? So this is directly being involved in a genocide.